Papers are continuing to focus on the situation in Ukraine. Florence, take us through some of the papers.
Well, it's getting a lot of attention on the front page of a lot of papers. So let's start by looking at the international New York Times that talks about the split that's widening in Ukraine. So those divisions between pro-European and pro-Russian Ukrainians, especially in the region of Crimea in the southeast. We saw pro-Russian armed men storm the local parliament there yesterday. It's also on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today that says that Ukraine is roiled by challenges coming from the east. And all this comes in the context of Russia ordering 150,000 more troops to move immediately into a state of combat readiness. So a lot of papers are saying that Vladimir Putin is flexing his military muscle. And in fact, there's a cartoon in The Independent of Vladimir Putin flexing his muscle, and you can see on the left there that sweet, cuddly Sachi bear mascot turning into a very scary Kalashnikov-wielding bear. And I don't know if you can read it there, but there's a heart tattoo that says, Putin hearts Yanukovych.
And several papers have been critical of the Russian president today, haven't they?
That's right. I pulled out two editorials. The first one in the Wall Street Journal, if we can go back to that paper, talking about the Crimean war games. And it says that the alarm is ringing in Crimea, and none less than peace in Europe is on the line. According to this article, the U.S. and Europe can no longer have any doubt about what Putin's intentions are. Basically, he's trying to move to carve up Ukraine if he can get away with it, according to this article. This paper says that the Kremlin is not only testing Ukraine, it's also testing the West. And basically, Putin saw that the West and the U.S. And Europe, rather, didn't really do much when when Russia invaded Georgia in 2008. Now, The Guardian also says that there are clear lessons to be learned from that 2008 war between Georgia and Russia, but lessons that Kiev should learn as well. Kiev has to tread very carefully, as must Russia. It's time for cool heads, not fanning flames, says The Guardian.
Well, Flo, as you said, it seems nobody's happy today. In the US, Republicans are criticising the way that President Obama is dealing with the situation.
That's right. The Daily Beast says that several Republicans are very nostalgic about the Cold War, as surprising as that may be. Top lawmakers in the House and Senate say that the world would actually be better if the Cold War was still on. Basically, they believe that at that time there were two superpowers. It was very clear just what they had, what the threats were. They knew how to deal with each other. Now, these Republicans are also critical of Obama for planning to cut the defense budget, and they believe that this eliminates Reagan's line of peace through strength. Now, the international New York Times has a cartoon that's also critical of Obama for planning to cut the defense budget. You can see, actually, that's not the one I wanted, but there is one in the international New York Times where basically you can see Obama reacting to this threat coming from all sorts of places in the world by deciding to cut military aid. But there's another cartoon, this time in the China Daily, which isn't really buying this cut in the military budget. You can see Obama there trying to cut a little bit out of the military spending with that little missile there, but behind him you can see the huge U.S. military, so it seems like this cut is just a drop in the ocean.
Now, speaking of cutting military budgets, you've pulled out an article about an unusual tradition amongst Marines that's apparently making a comeback.
That's right. Now, the Wall Street Journal says it's not a farewell to arms, it's a hello to arms. Now, what in the world is this about? Well, starting on March 9th, Marines can once again have the right to bear arms. In 2011, the U.S. Marine Corps ordered troops to keep their sleeves down, no matter what the climate or the place. Now, Marines had already grumbled in 2009 when they were ordered to keep their hands out of their pockets. They are not allowed to put their hands in their pockets unless they want to retrieve something quickly, but the sleeves went too far for them. So there were all sorts of petitions. Basically, rolling up your sleeves is a fashion statement, and it's not only just a way for them to show off their tattoos, it's actually a point of pride because there's a very special way that Marines roll up their sleeves, a traditional way that sets them apart from the Army and the Navy. So now they're going to be allowed to roll up their sleeves unless they're in a combat zone or during training or during the winter, but unfortunately, they have to keep their hands out of their pockets.
All right, and just finally, what's America's best-rated restaurant? Slate reports that the result is actually quite surprising.
That's right. Now, this is according not to professionals, but to foodies, customer reviews. And, well, it's not a fancy pants place. It's actually a little shack in Hawaii. It's called Da Poke Shack. You can check it out on Slate today. This was according to Yelp.com. They gave their 100 best restaurants in the U.S., and that little shack came out on top.
All right, thanks very much for keeping us up to date with the international headlines there. That's all for now. We're back soon, but we do leave you with these images, live images coming in from Ukraine at the airport where we showed you our correspondent just a short time ago.
Luanda Revisited.
In Angola's capital, dilapidated buildings are making way for skyscrapers. Since the end of the civil war, an oil boom has transformed Luanda. It's now the most expensive city in the world. But with 6 million inhabitants, it's also the capital of inequality. Where is all the oil money going? Why is the boom benefiting only the few?
Luanda Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.